40 minutes into my own wedding reception, my wife leaned into my ear during the first dance and whispered, "Something's soaking through your jacket." I thought she meant sweat. It was August. The tent was packed, and I'd been shaking hands for 2 hours. "No," she said. "It's not clear." I looked down. A dark stain the size of a fist was spreading across the gray fabric of my shoulder, and under the tent lights it had a yellow edge to it. It was already at my collar. The song was still playing. Everyone was still watching us. My cousin noticed first, and I watched her face change, then her husband, then the whole left side of the dance floor. My mother came toward us fast in a way that made the photographer lower his camera. Nobody laughed. That was somehow worse. 200 people stopped moving and stared while the band kept playing a song I'd picked out 4 months earlier. I'd had a lump under my right collarbone since May. Hard, grape-sized, painless unless I pressed it. I told myself it was a knot from the gym. I told my fiancé it was nothing. I canceled a doctor's appointment in June because we were touring venues that day. Sarah pulled me out the service door into the parking lot before the song ended. In the light of her phone, I got my jacket off. My shirt was soaked from the collar to the middle of my ribs, and it was still coming. It smelled sweet and rotten at once, and I gagged. "Hospital," she said. "Now." She drove in her wedding dress. I sat in her father's car holding cocktail napkins against my chest, watching them change color. They soaked through before we left the neighborhood. She had every window down, and she never once asked me to be careful about the seat. A waiting room at 10 on a Saturday night is its own kind of place. A man in a tux with a wet shirt walks in with a bride, and every head turns. A woman moved her kids to the far row. The security guard stood up. 2 men in the corner looked at me and then away. The triage nurse asked me to open my shirt. She got one look and stopped typing. "How long has that been draining?" "An hour, maybe." "And how long has it been there?" 3 months. She stood up and went through the doors without answering me. They had me in a room in 4 minutes, which anyone who spent a night in an ER knows is not normal. They put a line in my arm and started antibiotics before a doctor said a word to me. My temperature was 102.7. I hadn't known I had a fever. I thought I was just hot. The first doctor pressed gently above the site, and more came out than either of us expected. He leaned back and said, okay, in a voice that was too calm. Then he asked me a question that seemed to have nothing to do with anything. "Have you ever had a central line? A catheter in your chest or neck?" I told him I'd been hospitalized with pneumonia 5 years ago, and they'd put something in my neck for a few days. He left the room. He came back with a second doctor. They sent me for a CT. I lay in that machine in a tuxedo shirt with my wife outside in a wedding dress, thinking very clearly that I'd canceled an appointment in June to look at a barn. The surgeon came in around 1 in the morning holding a tablet. "There's a foreign body in your chest wall," he said, and turned the screen toward me. "About 6 centimeters. Your body walled it off, and the capsule got infected. That's what's draining." They took me in at 2:15. Sarah signed the consent form with her new last name for the first time. I woke after 6 with a drain in my chest and my throat raw. The surgeon came by that morning holding a specimen cup. Inside was a piece of thin, coiled wire about the length of my finger. "Guide wire fragment," he said. "It sheared off during your line placement 5 years ago. Nobody caught it on the follow-up film. It's been migrating since." He said the infection had been about a day from going systemic, and that the rupture was the reason I was alive. If it had stayed sealed and seeded my blood, he'd have been having a different conversation with my wife. Sarah was asleep in the recliner in her father's coat, still wearing half her makeup. When she woke up, I apologized for ruining the wedding. She looked at the drain and the bandage and me. "In sickness and in health," she said. "We just did them out of order. They gave me the wire in a sealed vial. It's on the shelf in our bedroom.